Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another 1/3 scale statue review. It's been a while since we've looked at a statue on the channel, not gonna lie. But today, we're going to be taking a look at a pre-production version of Queen Studios' 1/3 scale Zhu Bajie from Black Myth Wukong. Huge fan of the game. Now if you're looking to pre-order this, I've popped a link to Queen Studios' site in the description, but for full transparency, it's an affiliate link. Any commission earned will be reinvested back into the channel and put towards making new content. Alongside the link, I've included a discount code, Justin, for 5% off your order if you grab this. Okay, now if you haven't played the game, stop this video, go and give it a try. It's punishingly difficult. It's very hard. Graphics are insane, the gameplay is awesome, and while the story doesn't give too much away, I got plenty out of it. Bajie, you get introduced to him around chapter 3, and he's like a companion of sorts, but there's way more to it than that. Putting this statue together, very straightforward. Starting off with the base, then you can connect up Bajie himself to pins that insert into the top of the base, into the rocks directly, and lastly, his rake. It connects to his shoulder, then you swivel it around and pop it underneath his right hand. So it's not just resting on the shoulder, it's properly pegged in place. Starting off with his display base first, it's really classy and it fits the Wukong vibe. It's got this almost antique vase or urn look about it, with the snow up on top and the rocks. That's meant to mimic the Bitter Lake area, like I already said, where we first meet Bajie. Perfect base. They kept it simple, and I'm totally fine with that. Now the paint applications. The bottom part for the urn itself, it's like a really deep, dark navy blue bordering on black. Then there's some shading in the sculpted patterns. Some light airbrush shading. It's subtle, but in person you can absolutely see it. It helps that sculpt work pop. The top part of the base, there's a speckling effect for the snow on the rocks, and a crazy amount of sculpted texture and detail for those rocks and the snow. That detail is so sharp, it just laps up all the washes, brown wash, grey wash, and a blue wash. It's, once again, something that's subtle, but it helps with that snowy vibe. Moving on to Bajie himself. Love his spiky looking toenails. We'll discuss the skin in more detail a little bit later. And the outfit. Layered is probably the best way to describe it. There is so much going on with his outfit. And yes, for those wondering, underneath the skirt, he does have a little pair of jocks on. He's got some undies underneath those pieces of fabric. His outfit is mixed media. And you can adjust it. You can move bits and pieces around to get this thing to look exactly how you want it to. But it's not just regular old fabric. It's heavily textured and heavily weathered. Expertly done, might I add, with loose threads and raw edges on certain pieces of material, and some airbrushed brown shading, some lighter dry brushing, to highlight all of the texture as part of the weave of the fabric. Then these little bones, the tassels, you can move all of this stuff because, like I already said, it's fabric. Some folks don't love mixed media on statues, and I get it. You want to grab something out of the box, pop it on your shelf, set it, and forget it. But say you have something specific in mind, like you want to simulate wind blowing, and Zhu Bajie is standing there with his rake over his shoulder. His jacket is wired down the front, so you can do that. Oh, and he does have even more detail underneath the outfit. The sleeves, you can roll them up to expose skin that's fully painted and fully sculpted with a ton of wrinkling and skin texture on it. And speaking of skin texture, oh my word. The vein work, the little wrinkles on his fingers, the gradient effect for the separately inserted fingernails that sit proud of the sculpt for the fingers themselves, adding realism there. How the hand just naturally cups the rake over his shoulder. I've got no complaints about paint app, detail, sculpt work, the gestures with the hands whatsoever. His necklace with the beads, the little brown piece, is meant to sit over his left shoulder. That is game accurate. The way it just sits on his potbelly underneath the scarf, that too is game accurate. If you don't like it, you can remove it. Totally an option. I prefer to pull the scarf down a little to expose as much fur as possible underneath his chin. There's product in it, but it's a little bit fuzzier there. Most of the product was applied to his head sculpt, if you can even call it a head sculpt, because it's rooted hair, prosthetic eyes, dentures, and platinum silicone for his squishy nose. The front part of his snoot is silicone. I didn't read the pre-order listing properly. I wasn't expecting that. But that right there is Bajie. 100%. From every angle. Likeness is perfect. Detail is perfect. And the expression? Also perfect. He's looking up at you at an angle. He's got his head cocked to one side. He looks cocky because of that. His eyes are wide open. And he's got this smirk going on. This piece oozes personality. Bajie was this short, little gruff-sounding guy. He packed a punch, he helped heal you in the game, and he was always cracking jokes. This statue captures that to a T. You can't tell me that that doesn't look like Bajie. Anyway, the hair, it's got a gradient effect to it. It's not just all one color. There's layers at play just like his outfit. And that nose, that platinum silicone nose, there's depth for the nostrils, some lighter shading over the top, and being silicone, it's totally boopable. It's a little bit squishy. Once again, not something I thought was going to be the case, but pleasantly surprised by not only the detail, but the boopability of that nose. How about the mouth? There's a translucency to the dentures, especially the big tusks, a little bit of yellowing to them because they're outside of his mouth. That makes sense. The front ones look a touch cleaner, still shading going on. And there's a tongue inside his mouth, with plenty of detail on his lips. They're sculpted plastic, but there's a sheen to them. They look like they could be made of silicone, just like the nose. The match between the nose and the lips, on point. His eyes are prosthetic. There's a lot of depth to them, being separate pieces inset inside the head sculpt. There's red shading and vein work around the edges, and some sculpted skin texture for his eyelids. So much life from these eyes alone. The hair had a decent amount of product in it out of the box, but I didn't have to style it. I grabbed it out of the box, futzed with the outfit a little, but the hair already looked exactly like this. You could wet it down and tease the hair on his ears, make the back of his hair a little bit more pointy if you wanted. I was happy with this. That, to me, like I already said, looked like Zhu Bajie from the game, so that's how I left it. Right, so this rake, it's a separate piece that you have to install, I showed you earlier. It's a masterclass in intricate sculpt work. The dragons, the little tongues coming out of their mouths, the horns, the spikies, down the entire length of this rake. There's gold inlaid paint applications and silver paint apps and some red shading. Even on the bottom part, there's like little monkeys, I think. This is not something I got a really good look at in-game, but now that I have it in third scale, I can admire it a lot more closely. Zhu Bajie himself? For those wondering how big he is, because I've heard some people say online that he's tiny, he's really small. He's not going to fit in the collection because he's far too miniature. Well, this is Bajie, next to the Great Sage Armor version of Wukong. As you can see, he ain't small. Bajie towers over Wukong, and he's got girth and bulk to him, especially with his head. It's quite sizable. The first thought that I had when I opened the box wasn't, oh, this is tiny, no way I can pop this in my collection. So, yeah, if you've got this guy on the way, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. At the end of this, has it been a gush fest of a video? Yeah, totally. But that's not my fault. Bajie is just genuinely that darn good. There is very little to complain about here. In fact, I had one of my friends look at this piece, and he said that this 1/3 scale statue of Bajie actually looked more realistic and better than the one from the game, which is like the highest level of praise possible. Now, if you're looking to grab this, I've popped a link to Queen Studios in the description, direct to their own website, and the discount code Justin for 5% off your order. It's an affiliate link. Any commission earned will be reinvested back into the channel and put towards making new content. If you're heading down to the description, why not hit that subscribe, bell notification icon, and join button if you like the sound of seeing your name in the end credits of my reviews. Like, comment, and subscribe. We'll catch you in the next video.